doing that? No. They said they would stop molesting little children and searching for poop bombs in their diapers, but did they stop doing that? No, they didn't. They can say anything they want. If there's anything that we've learned in the last couple of years, it's that the TSA lies to you every chance they get. And they're lying to their own employees by saying, oh, it's a safe work environment. Whoa, your hair is glowing, your thyroid has cancer. Don't worry, it's a safe work environment. But if they do follow through with this promise, they're going to have their workers wearing dosimeters so they can actually monitor the amount of radiation they get and see just how badly they're being fried from the radiation-emitting security devices that they have you and I walk through. And they continue to lie, by the way, to say that these have been certified as safe by the NIST, even though the NIST has publicly said that is not true. Just another lie from the TSA. Now, we have another article on INFOWARS.com by Paul Joseph Watson breaking down the health effects of these radiation devices, the naked body scanners being used by the TSA. And this story is entitled TSA to Test Body Scanner Operators for Radiation Exposure. It cites numerous studies from Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, the University of California, and the Interagency Committee on Radiation Safety. It says that a cluster of cancer cases has now been detected among TSA workers, and you can find more about that story at INFOWARS.com. There's another story, also by Paul Joseph Watson, published at INFOWARS.com. Cancer surges in body scanner operators, and the TSA launches a cover-up. Well, what more would you expect from the TSA than a cover-up? Fearful of provoking further public resistance to naked airport body scanners, the TSA has been caught covering up a surge of cases in TSA workers developing cancer. The story reports, and you can read more about that story by Paul Watson right there on INFOWARS.com. Never a day goes by that we aren't entertained by the TSA's lies. There's always something. It's usually involving elderly women or diapers or radiation. It's like a bad Beavis and Butthead episode run by the federal government or something. I'm not sure how they get to all that. Moving on, dead on arrival. SOPA is now shelved, and we don't know if it's permanently shelved or not. That's right. This is the Online Intellectual Property Act, SOPA, the Anti-Piracy Act, I should say, that said it was going to stop piracy, but in fact was just a government censorship bill to try to take down websites publishing information that the government did not like. And here's a quote from shtfplan.com. While this bill of goods was being sold to the American public as a way to reduce online piracy, in essence, the legislation would have made it possible for any organization to target websites using excerpts, quotes, and videos without express permission of the authors or producers of such content. So dead on arrival now, SOPA shelved indefinitely. Believe it or not, the White House has now come out against it. Although, don't forget, Obama said he wasn't going to sign the NDAA, and yet he did. So that Obama can say anything he wants. He can say he's against it. He can be just like the TSA and lie to your face, and at the end of the day, he may end up signing it anyway. That is a tactic they're now using. Well, hey, every White House has been using that tactic for a long time to get bills passed, even though they know the bills are offensive to freedom-minded individuals, and there are a great many of those still remaining here in the great United States of America. Thank goodness for that. And thank you for watching, by the way. Now, if you consider yourself an American citizen, and you've been watching the entire debate about the NDAA, you may have come to the realization that, hey, as long as I'm an American citizen, I've got my Bill of Rights, right? Well, what if they could strip you of your citizenship? Then they could arrest you, detain you, interrogate you, assassinate you, put you in Gitmo or some other secret military prison and do basically anything they wanted to you, strip you of your due process rights, deny you a lawyer, and do anything they want to you without ever charging you with a crime. This is what is now possible under the new Enemy Expatriation Act. This is H.R. Bill 3166 with an accompanying Senate Bill 1698. And Alex Jones had something to say about this. As you might imagine, he said, the Enemy Expatriation Act is similar to the Nazi faction's Nuremberg laws, where Adolf Hitler took away German citizenship based on race, blood types, and those against the Hitler regime. Now, what's important to note about this is that, oh, wait a minute, here's a quote from the story, Digital Journal. whether American citizens who are guaranteed due process of law by their Bill of Rights were included in the authority of the NDAA was not made absolutely clear. Here's why this matters. You see, when this bill, the Enemy Expatriation Act, is combined with the NDAA, then you have a two-pronged assault on your liberty. You see, Obama was explaining, well, the NDAA doesn't necessarily, it's not really going to be implemented against American citizens. But then they could say, well, if you support terrorism, or if you're working in opposition to the United States of America, which means the current government, then they could first strip you of your citizenship and then nail you under NDAA because you're no longer an American citizen with Bill of Rights protection. You see how that works? It's almost like good cop, bad cop, but it's two bad cops working in conspiracy to strip you of your freedoms. We have another, well, we already covered that quote there. Anyway, the good news is that SOPA is now being shelved, and I want to give a big shout out to all those out there who worked to help stop this bill, including, I forgot the man's name, who is Frederick, an INFOWARS listener who started the boycott of GoDaddy, which was very, very effective. And in fact, we have many other websites that were planning a day to go dark because of SOPA, and believe it or not, Natural News was planning on doing that too. We were going to go dark on Wednesday, guys. Now I'm not sure if we're going to do that. But in any case, this is another example of liberty-minded people standing up for their rights and stopping a very bad bill. But remember, you must have eternal vigilance because the powers that be will try to bring this back again and again in different forms with different bills. Now we have some more health news for you tonight. A totally drug-resistant form of tuberculosis has now been reported in India. Yeah, really drug-resistant, and it's extremely fatal too. So far, a 25% fatality rate. How big is that rate? Well, remember the swine flu from a couple years ago that they were scaring us about? That only had a fatality rate of something like 1% or even less. Well, this is reported in the New York Daily News that now 12 have been infected with this completely drug-resistant strain of TB. 3 have already died and 9 are clinging to life in India. This is, of course, the result of the widespread abuse of antibiotics, and it means that conventional medicine has absolutely no way to help these people. It also means that if this strain is somehow carried to the United States, that hospitals will become death zones. It's not an exaggeration. Hospitals are already infected with almost epidemic levels of superbugs, and a superbug drug-resistant form of TB could just be added to that. Hey, it's another reason to keep your vitamin D levels up, folks. Get into some good nutrition and take care of your health because TB is getting worse around the planet. Speaking of health news, let's combine some health with some surveillance in our public schools, shall we? Yeah, schools in, I believe in New York, Long Island students are now going to be spied on by school officials that have the kids wearing these electronic tracking bracelets. Yeah, it tracks their expenditure of calories and how much food they're burning versus how much food they're taking in. And then this information that's tracked is then uploaded to the school's website where it's used by teachers. For what purpose? We don't know exactly. Could it be used later on and given to insurance companies that then raise the health insurance rates for that family? Could it be used to diagnose these children with psychiatric disorders and then drug them with brain-altering psychotropic drugs? We don't know the answers to that, but we do know that this is being done without parental consent, and it's yet another example of the runaway police state public education system spying on kids and not telling parents while they're doing it. Kind of reminds me of the whole vaccine situation in California, you know, where Governor Jerry Brown said, well, now our school children can give permission and consent to be injected with HPV vaccines, and the parents don't even have to know about it. Let's just let it be our little secret, shall we? Oh, now we'll track the kids and inject them with vaccines and put them on psychiatric drugs. And then we'll get paid extra money by the state because we have problem students, which has extra compensation from taxpayer money. What a brilliant little scam to fund their little pathetic public school system. All right, speaking of pathetic things, have you heard about that ship that capsized off the coast of Italy? Yeah, it went down like the Titanic. Listed to one side, and over 4,000 people were on that ship, and most of them managed to get off, but not all of them. There were fatalities in this, so I don't mean to make light of the fatalities. That is a tragedy, but it is pathetic that the captain was was observed in the bar drinking a beer right before at least that's what I read in the news report. But check this out. The reason I bring this up and the reason this is relevant to you is because this is a little metaphor for what's going on in our world today. Take a look at what some of the passengers said when this ship struck the rock and started to sink. They said, quote, "The lights went off and then came back on again, and then everyone just started scrambling over each other. I'm sorry, we were sitting at our dinner table." That quote's coming up. There's plenty of chaos to go around. "We were sitting at our dinner table when there was a loud bang and things just flew off the table. The lights went off and then came back on again, and then everyone just started scrambling over each other to try to get a life vest or to the lifeboats. People were trampling over each other and the children in the chaos. We couldn't believe our eyes." That's the next quote. "It was just utter chaos. People were rushing about and pushing each other in a panic. Children were crying and no one seemed to know what was happening. We got into a lifeboat," and so on and so forth. That's actual testimony from people on the scene. Now, the reason this is important is because, you see, think about when you're on a cruise boat. It's kind of an artificial reality and an artificial economy. All the food is provided for you, usually all you can eat. You have your artificial credit card to use on the ship, and the ports that you enter are all artificially made up for tourists. You know, nice and clean ports all over the Caribbean and everywhere else around the world, you know, to impress the travelers. It's an artificial reality. But then when the real world hits, oh, we struck a rock, people start to panic. And I think that this is what could be coming, maybe not just in 2012, but in the years beyond 2012, where a lot of people have been living in a false reality about our economy, about the US dollar, about debt, about free money and government welfare systems. And they're going to be really shocked into a rude awakening about reality when the real tyranny hits home, when the real crisis becomes apparent to them. They're going to be bailing out the exit doors, running for the lifeboats and trampling all over each other to try to get food. Not trying to create a scare message here, just trying to say, you know, maybe we should look for the rocks, not run into things that sink our ship. And that's what Ron Paul is trying to warn us about. Let's not sink the national economy. Let's observe what's going on out there, do the sonar, do the radar. Let's see what the threats might be that are in our way, and let's avoid them or eliminate them or solve the problems before they become a crisis so we can keep our ship afloat. And that's why I support Ron Paul, and I'm sure that's why many of you do as well. But man, cruise is an artificial reality, just kind of like what we're living in today. Now, on to some news that is a little bit humorous and kind of sick, too. Actually, we have some men who have been arrested. Oh, you've heard the story about the goose that lays the golden egg? Well, these men in Korea were caught smuggling gold nuggets in their rectums. Yeah, they were trying to bring it into Japan to avoid the import taxes. 8 men were arrested by South Korean customs officials. They had a scheme to smuggle gold out of the country by hiding it in their rectums. Apparently, they transformed $260,000 worth of gold bars into small beads and then, use their own biology to try to get those out of the country. I guess this is their way to try to rectify a global price or